All right. Perfect. So welcome everyone. This is Mastering the Art of Networking, Building Profitable Relationships Online and in person. And my name is Rob Letterhilger, and I'm the founder and CEO of Soluency. We're a web and mobile app development company. And there we go. So today what we're going to learn by the end of the meeting, and you'll have a chance to practice at the end in the breakout rooms, we're going to learn common mistakes to avoid when networking. You're going to learn how to become a more effective and confident networker because a lot of times there's some anxiety involved in networking. We're also going to craft your elevator pitch so that you can quickly and clearly demonstrate who would be a great customer or client for you. We're also going to show you how to build a network of referral partners who can send you streams and streams of business. So the agenda that we're going to go through is number one, where you can do networking, where you can find groups and meet people to be able to do networking. The most overlooked thing I think in networking is getting the right mindset. So we're going to cover that for both the individual events and also for networking in general. And then we're going to do a fun little project in the middle here where we actually craft your elevator pitch, and then you'll get to use that later on in the breakout rooms. And then building profitable relationships, which is really the core of networking. That's really the goal. The goal is not to sell. The goal is to build profitable relationships with your referral partners. And so where you can network. So there are plenty of networking events out both in your area and online. Alignable is a really great resource for networking. I've done quite a few of these Smart Connect events. They're very valuable. I meet tons and tons of very valuable referral partners. So there's Alignable Alliances where they have in-person and virtual events. And then there's also alignable groups where you can find the Smart Connect events. Other areas where you can do networking, more so in person, would be like your local chamber of commerce. And typically, depending on your geographic area, there may be maybe 2 or 3 different chambers of commerce that you can either join or you can visit as a visitor to see if it's even worthwhile to join. But they have usually for the in-person events for things like the Chamber of Commerce and local networking organizations. They usually have like a morning, they usually have one per month. One would be morning, like a coffee. The other would be like a lunch. And then the other option is like an after-hour social. So that's typically the format that they follow. And we'll get into that in a little bit of detail in a bit here. Other networking organizations would be places like BNI, Business Networking International. There's also a lot of local networking groups that you can find on like Facebook or Eventbrite. But one of the greatest areas to find other networking groups would be as you're at a networking event, you can simply ask the attendees what other groups that they're a part of. And while you're doing your networking, it's a really great conversation piece, right? What better way of starting a conversation or being in the middle of a conversation than to ask what other groups that they're in. So that's a really great resource for finding other groups and other places to do networking. So getting the right mindset. So as I mentioned earlier, mindset is so important. It's one of the most overlooked things in networking. So you have to set expectations and be clear about what you want, not just out of the event, the specific event, but about networking in general, overall. So it's really important to set those expectations, be clear about what you want to get out of that event, what you want to get out of networking in general. Everyone else is just as nervous as you are. So as you're experiencing that anxiety, just keep in mind that everyone else is experiencing that, maybe not that same level of anxiety, but some certain amount of anxiety. And, it's funny, I was actually watching some race show. I'm really big into motorsports, and there was a racer who said, if you're not nervous, something's wrong because you need a certain level of anxiety to keep you on your toes, keep you in peak operating conditions. So it's not a bad thing to be nervous. It's something everyone is experiencing. Networking is actually a lot more like farming than it is like hunting. So we'll go through that in the next section here, but it's really important also to help other people first. That's a really big thing. So most people, when they're doing networking, they tend to think about what they can get out of things, right? And so it's really important to know, what can I do to help someone else? Because, if you're always looking at it in terms of what you can get out of it, that's the wrong mindset. So it's really important for you to be able to figure out how it is that you can help other people, and not just be selfish and think about yourself. Because really, what you're doing is you're building relationships, and in order to build relationships and be able to gain referrals from your referral partners, they need to know, like, and trust you. And so one of the key ways you can do that is by helping them first. Um, and so networking is so powerful. When I got into really seriously doing networking, it was the first time that I met other business owners and other professionals that were too busy. And I had never seen this phenomenon before, where there was a business owner or professional that was too busy and couldn't take on any additional work. So in the chat, if you want to type a 1, if you'd like to have that problem where you'd like to be so busy that you can't take on any work, or a 2 if you don't want to have that problem and you just want to be slow and just kind of steady. So networking is a really powerful way to build your business, and it's a very cost-effective way, because the only expense is your investment in time. If everyone can just mute, I hear a little bit of a background. Okay, thank you. So it's such a powerful tool to be able to do networking. It's very cost effective, compared to other forms of advertising and marketing. It's going to be your cheapest way, and it's going to build such a powerful stream of referrals.
Networking كمان خزق.
So as I mentioned before, networking is a lot more like farming. So it's not like hunting. So if you have sales quotas and you need to, using that analogy, if you need to eat dinner tonight and you're trying to do it via farming, it's going to be really difficult to plant a seed, water it, and have, a fruit that night for dinner. So you need to figure out another way to augment your income, if that's, if you want to use networking. Think of it more of like a longer term approach. So maybe you already started doing some networking already and you can kind of build upon that, which is great. But if you're just getting started, don't rely on it for your income or for meeting quotas. You should figure out some other method of sales and marketing so that you can eat dinner that night, using that farming example, hunting farming example. You need to hunt and farm at the same time, because networking is about cultivating relationships. So it's a lot like you're planting seeds and you're watering those seeds and you're nurturing them and you're giving them sunlight, and eventually they're going to produce an abundant harvest where you're going to have so much fruit that you can't even eat it all, that you're going to be giving it away. It's the same thing with networking. So one of the biggest keys is don't make the mistake of prematurely pitching your product or service. This isn't face-to-face cold calling. This is about building relationships with referral partners of people that can send you streams of business. So don't make the mistake on the same, side of that. Don't make the mistake of asking someone for a referral until you feel confident that that person knows, likes, and trusts you. And we'll talk about building relationships here in a minute. So giving before you receive. So there's a law of reciprocity, which is the human instinct to repay favors given. So if you give a referral to someone, or if you make an introduction for someone else to a referral partner, there's going to be that instinct where they're going to want to repay you for what how you've helped them. So to build relationships very quickly, you're going to want to offer assistance before you even expect anything in return. So again, changing that mindset from, what can I get out of this, into what can I give to someone else? Because you're going to get that back, and that shouldn't be the motivation of why you do it, but naturally someone is going to return back to you the favors that you've given to them. It's just natural human instinct. So one of the easiest ways is you can ask, what's a good referral I can send to you? Or who would be a good referral partner? I find that sometimes making introductions to referral partners is actually a lot easier sometimes than giving a referral, because I may not know someone who, I don't know, needs a plumber or a roofer or a realtor, but maybe I know a home inspector that I can introduce to a realtor, or maybe I know a realtor I can introduce to a mortgage professional. So sometimes for me, that's a little bit easier, and it's a way of showing that I care about your business, I care about you, and I want to build a relationship with you. So the other way you can give before you receive would be, do you know someone that needs their product or service, or do you need it yourself, right? Maybe there's, maybe you need your windows tinted in your car, or maybe you need your roof replaced in your house, or, there's any number of things that you would ordinarily have to buy that you can buy from someone that you meet during your networking activities. And again, you're going to want to buy from someone that you know, like, and trust. So think of that the same way when you're doing business. So building relationships. So as I mentioned, this is really the core of networking. This is it's the main focus of what you should be focused on, not so much sales activity. You shouldn't be trying to sell your product. That will come naturally over time as you build your relationships. So it's really important after you meet with someone to follow up with them and schedule some time to do a one-to-one, either in person or online. Sometimes in our current world, it's a lot easier just to meet via Zoom. It's a little less personal, but it gets the job done. It's definitely a great way to meet with someone. Um, you want to be selective about who you date. So networking is a lot like, using a now, I'm really big on analogy. So networking is a lot like dating, and so you want to be, number one, selective about who you date, because you don't, if, let's say, in my instance, I do web development. I'm a technologist. So really a referral partner for me wouldn't be like in the trades. Now, the trades people can be great customers for me, but as I'm building relationships, it's not my core focus of who I'm building. So for me, it's more like business to business providers. So like CPAs and attorneys and things like that is who I really want to build my core relationships with. Now, that's not to say you shouldn't build relationships with people who may not be the perfect referral partners, but as you get busy, you have to be very selective. You only have 24 hours in a day. So you have to be very selective about where you're going to get the most impact from. So again, give before you receive. That's the greatest way to start building and continue nurturing a relationship. Show that you care about their success, and they're going to want to refer business back to you. Again, law of reciprocity. Relationships a lot of times turn into friendships, and that can be a lot easier to maintain that relationship over a long period of time. And these long-term relationships are what's going to lead to ongoing streams of referrals and increased business over time. So next up is your elevator pitch. So this part is fun. So we're going to actually craft your elevator pitch right now. So find a pen and a paper, or pull up a Word, document on your computer, or find somewhere where you can document this right now. So the elevator pitch, most people make the mistake of saying everybody or anybody, or, so for instance, I could say anybody who needs a website, or anybody who has a business card, which is a mistake. And that's not how I have my elevator pitch crafted. So it's really important to be specific, concise, and succinct, very short and natural. But keep in mind, it's going to evolve over time with practice. Keep it very simple. So I want you to take out your pens or your little notepad on your computer, and I want you to say something like, "Hi, I am," whatever your name is and whatever your business name is. That's very simple, very easy. I, and then an action verb. So help, guide, consult, assist. Think of, words that would describe what it is that you do to help people, or consult or assist or what have you. The emotion of the client. So maybe they're frustrated, maybe they're struggling, maybe they're happy or satisfied. Um, and then who is the client? Who is your ideal client? Are they business owners? Are they homeowners? Are they, what is a perfect client for you? And what do they need, or what is it that they want, right? So maybe they need to increase their profits, or if in the case of, if you're a plumber, they need their toilet fixed, or if they're a or if you're a roofer, they need their roof fixed. And the solution, what you can provide for them. So why don't you go ahead and document that down? Very simple. Hi, I am, your introduction, what is it that you do, who your ideal client is, and how you can help solve their problem. And go ahead and type a 1 in the chat when you're finished. And go ahead and type a 2 in the chat if you need a little bit more time. All right, we got some people finishing up. And if you aren't finished yet, just get something done. Again, you can evolve, and it'll evolve over time with practice. It's not gonna, what you come up with today is not gonna be what it is in 6 months from now. So just, write something down and tweak it over time. You'll get time to practice in the breakout rooms. You'll get to actually um, practice and actually use your elevator pitch, which will be pretty fun.
For lightning. Yeah, you guys made a big mistake because I'm going to go even deeper.
If everybody can just make sure they're on mute, that would be great. Another thing that's I found very valuable is creating a hook, right? So, for instance, if you're a realtor, a lot of realtors will do things like first-time home buyers. Well, not seminars anymore. Now you can do webinars, but it used to be very popular where they'd get seminars and people would show up and all the, this type of thing. Because it's very easy when you're either giving something away for free, or if you have something that's a very low, price point. So for instance, as I mentioned, I do web and mobile app development. So something that we created was NFC smart business cards. It's a low price point product, and it leads to building on that for other products. So be creative. Think of something that's either free or inexpensive that you can entice potential customers to get a little sample of how you work, right? So just kind of get them in the door. Focus on, what it is, what is the benefit? What are they going to get out of it? So maybe it's something like a PDF document, even like a free, something, think free or cheap, something that's gonna kind of hook them in, and a little bit of a carrot on the stick there. Make it very effortless for people to recommend you. So as you're building your referral network, it'd be really great if you had that hook of something that your referral partners can be on the lookout for, because the easier you can make it for a referral partner to send business to you, the easier it is that they're going to start sending you referrals. So you don't have to do this part here. It's just something that I want you guys to think about over time. What is it that you can do, to create a hook into your business? And so the event. So mindset, again, is very important, especially for specific events. So what is the event format? Is it virtual? Is it in person? If it's in person, is it a coffee in the morning? Is it a lunch event, or is it a happy hour social? So if it's a virtual event, it's typically going to be kind of like what we're going to do in the breakout rooms later on in a little bit, where you're doing like a speed networking type style. If it's in person, if it's a coffee club type thing where you have coffee, it's kind of like open networking in the beginning. Then you may have a chance to kind of stand up and explain, kind of like your elevator pitch, right? So you get that 30 seconds or maybe a minute, which is where your elevator pitch is going to come in handy. You stand up, you can deliver that. So you have to be prepared for what is the event format. And then a lot of times when it's a after hours, happy hour social, you may not get that opportunity. So it's more loose and relaxed, and people are just kind of mingling. So it's important to wrap your head around what is the event, what is the format of the event going to be, so that you can prepare for it. The other thing that's really important is scheduling, but not just scheduling the event, but committing to the event. So our schedules are so busy. We always get, so overwhelmed with our day to day, that it's really important not just to schedule the event. So I've made the mistake of not scheduling events, and then day comes and I forgot all about it. So number one, it's really important to schedule the event. But the other part that's really important is committing to actually going to that event, because you may schedule it, maybe on your calendar, but then the day comes around, and of course, a million things go wrong in your day. Of course, the day that you want to go to this event, a million things go wrong. You haven't really committed mentally to going, and so it's really easy in a lot of cases to just say, you know what, I can't make it to that. So it's really important to schedule, but it's even more important to commit once you do schedule. So make sure you have that firmly in your mind that I'm going to this event, whether it's virtual or in person. Anxiety. So we were talking in the waiting room earlier before we started the meeting about anxiety. So anxiety is a very real thing with networking. And some people, they may not look anxious, they may not look like they're nervous, but they really are. So just keep in mind, everyone is experiencing some level of anxiety or nervousness. So just the easiest thing to do is number one, repetition. So just continue going to these events. Keep in mind that everyone else is just as nervous as you are, and just have fun with it. It's again going back to expectations. If you set the expectation that if you're going to go to a meeting, depending on your level of experience, maybe your expectation is I'm going to meet, one referral partner. I'm going to make one good referral partner. Maybe that's maybe your expectation, if you have a very high level of anxiety and a very low level of experience, maybe your expectation should be, I'm going to get out of my car and I'm going to go into the event and I'm going to actually be there. Maybe that should be the expectations that you set. So it depends on your level of experience and what it is that you're looking to get out of it. But setting expectations is very important for not just networking in general, but also for the specific event. And so what do you do when you get to a room? Let's say you're in person. Virtual is a little bit of a different story. You're just kind of there. You're on a Zoom call. It's a lot different than in person. So let's say you're in person, you go to a networking event. What do you do? Let's say when you walk into this room right here, you walk in, let's say this is you, you're walking into this room. Where would you go? For me, I'd probably approach this guy hanging out in the back here. He's by himself. Another approachable group would be these people right here, these ladies sitting around these glasses of champagne. Very easy entry just to kind of walk up over here. But again, I'd probably approach this guy in the back. He's kind of out by himself. And as you're having conversations, it's natural for other people to kind of join in if you leave your body language open for it. So for instance, these two people here, if they were a little more, if this guy was a little more squared off in the shoulders, these people wouldn't be open to networking. But because this guy has his shoulder out a little bit, his foot is kind of out this way, he's open, they're open to networking. So you can kind of say hi. So very easy. The easiest thing to do is just smile and say hi. It's people are there to do networking, right? So it's not like you're just walking into the mall and talking to strangers. So um, again, don't sell. You're there to build relationships. So I've been to networking events where I've met people and haven't even talked about what they do until probably like I've seen them 2 or 3 times later. You're just there to build relationships, meet people. Um, if you do want to kind of cut to the chase a little bit, going back to the law of reciprocity, if you ask someone else, oh, what do you do? Naturally, they're going to say, oh, I do such and such and such. What do you do? So it's these calibrated questions, depending on the questions that you ask them, can can generate a response and maybe reverse questions for you. Again, going back to law of reciprocity. So a little bit more of like the psychology of who's open to networking. And again, just keep it simple, eye contact, smile, and say hello. So basically in this room, these two women here, they're really not open to networking. You can see their shoulders are kind of squared off. They have, something that looks like in her hand that she's kind of having looks like they're having a discussion. I wouldn't really approach them. These people are kind of open because they're not really squared off. They're kind of open to networking. I can't really tell back here, but these 3 people, I think it's 3 people back here, look like they're open. Now back here, these 2 guys are actually looking at some kind of material. So even though their body language shows that they're open to networking, it looks like they're reviewing something pretty serious. They're in some kind of discussion. So they're really not open at this moment to networking. So what happens if you meet your competition? Let's say you're a financial planner, you meet another financial planner, or you're a banker, you meet another banker. They're not necessarily competition. I've met a lot of people who are in similar lines of work that actually pass a lot of referrals to each other. Because let's say in banking, right, there may be a certain type of loan product that one banker does versus the other banker doesn't. So in a lot of cases, you may think it's your competition, but they could be very, very good referral partners. And so repetition and practice is really important. Just go to as many events as you can. Don't take yourself too seriously and just practice, practice, practice. That's really what's going to help you really gain an edge in networking, because there's different stages of competence, right? So we have the first stage of competence is where we just don't know how bad we are. That's called unconscious incompetence, right? Then we have conscious incompetence where we know we're pretty bad. And then the next stage is conscious competence. So that would be like you walk into this room and you consciously think, okay, I can't approach these guys because they're looking at material or whatever. I can't approach these two women because they're kind of like engaged in conversation. And then you have that level of unconscious competence where you just walk into this room and naturally you start talking to these people, or naturally you start talking to these three people back here, and you're not even thinking of the psychology of who's open to networking. You're naturally competent at it. So one more real quick one. Again, smile, eye contact. These people are kind of in a triangular shape, so this would be really hard to kind of enter into their conversation. Same with these people here, kind of hard to enter into this conversation. These people would be approachable. You can see this woman's leg is kind of facing out towards like where you would approach in. This guy is kind of out, as well, kind of open. So these people would be approachable, not so much them or them. But again, as you're in these situations, you'll become more competent, as you go through it. So follow up, as I mentioned, the analogy, networking is a lot like dating. So you have to be very selective about who you want to be in a relationship. So think of it like dating. When when you meet someone at a coffee shop or something, and you think, oh, I like that person, I would like to date them. Obviously, you're going to follow up with them and try to set up your first date. Same thing with networking. As you meet someone at a networking event, you have to make sure you follow up with them, set up that first one-to-one, and start building that relationship. Same thing with, again, going back to the dating analogy. After your first date, if you just fell off the face of the earth, that relationship's not going to go anywhere. So after your first one-to-one, you're going to want to continue following up with that person, which is why it's so important to be selective about who you want to build these relationships with, because you're not going to have the time and capacity to be able to build a lot of relationships with, you only have a certain limited capacity that you can build relationships with. So you want to be selective about quality referral partners. So always make sure you call or email after an event, very important. Set up time for in-person or virtual meeting. If you can do it in person, that's great. Otherwise, there's geographic, situations where, you may meet someone on an Alignable Smart Connect and they're in California and you're in New York. So obviously, virtual would be the right approach there. Focus on building the relationship and not face-to-face, cold selling them. How can you help them? What is it that they need? What kind of referrals you can send their way? What kind of introductions can you do for them? Active listening. So this is really important. I see a lot of people who, when they're out networking, they're not really listening. And so we have two ears and one mouth, right? And so it's interesting because in the law enforcement space, when they're kind of investigating targets, they have entire teams of people that are listening to be able to catch things that other people don't. So I guess the point of the story there is listening is something that you have to actively try to do. Take notes if you can, because it's, how do you feel when you tell someone something and then you talk about it as if you remember, as if you think they're going to remember what you said and they just have no clue, they don't remember. It makes you feel a little less connected to that person. So it's really important. We have two ears and one mouth because we need to listen twice as much as we talk. So it's really important that you listen, you retain. You're not just having, empty conversation. You're actually actively listening and retaining this information from your referral partners or your potential referral partners. So follow up, always make sure you follow up. Very, very important. So we're going to practice right now. We got some time. We're going to go into breakout rooms. We're going to have 5 minutes in a breakout room. So be very cognizant of your time. So you're going to have 2.5 minutes each. So use your elevator pitch, practice your elevator pitch, ask some follow-up questions that should be, it sounds like it's not a lot of time, but it actually is a pretty decent amount of time. And if you're in other networking events, that's pretty much the norm. Sometimes they may give you more, sometimes they give you less, but it's Do your elevator pitch, practice that, follow-up questions. If you feel like this is someone that I want to follow up with, do a one-to-one and really spend some time with them, connect with them on Alignable, get their information, and set up some time for a one-to-one. So we're going to go ahead and do the breakout rooms here. Let me see, where is the breakout? Brittany, do you have that control on your end? I don't see the breakout rooms here.
Yep, I can do that.
Okay. All right, perfect. Thank you.
I will say it'll be my little selfish plug for Smart Connect because I love just being able to press one button and not having to do the math, but happy to do it to support today.
Thanks, Brittany.
You're welcome. All right, guys. And we will go ahead and start that first breakout.
Happy networking.
I'm in a happy networking practice.
It while we were in breakouts, but now that we're going into Q&A, I will turn it over to Rob. We'll ask that everyone goes on mute. And if you have a question for Rob, you can go ahead and use that raised hand feature and he will start taking them.
Perfect. Thank you, Brittany. Appreciate that. So with that, I'm going to give you some closing thoughts and some key takeaways, and then we'll roll into the Q&A. So networking, it's all about creating meaningful relationships, building relationships. It's not just a cold, pitch for your products and services. So you're not focusing on, and hopefully that's a mindset shift for some of you guys as you do your networking, to not just jump into pitching your products and services, and to rather build those relationships, find out how it is that you can help other people, and how can you help each other out. Mastering the art of networking requires repetition in order to become proficient. So we like to run these once a month. So it's kind of like, sometimes when you watch a movie and you get something out of it that you didn't see the first time, or maybe I bring up some new stuff, some new concepts that you haven't heard the last time. So definitely try to attend these monthly. Also try to attend the Smart Connect events. I'm on those quite a bit. So definitely attend those. Practice your networking. It's really important. So just keep at it, keep practicing, repetition. Let's go on to Q&A. So why don't you go ahead and use the raised hand feature, or go ahead and post a question in the chat.
And I do have 2 questions that were pre-submitted in the chat that we can start with, Rob.
Great, let's start with those.
Yeah, so the first one was from Randall, and he just kind of asked, what are realistic expectations? So you kind of started talking about that earlier in the presentation, about kind of giving yourself realistic expectations for when you go into these networking events. You definitely listed a few, but Randall, did you have any additional kind of questions around setting expectations?
He answered everything perfectly. So I think I'm pretty clear. If there's anything
That's
to add, that's fine. But I thought you did a great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Randall. I really appreciate that. And just to add to that, expectations are going to be different based on your level of experience in networking and what it is that you want to get out of each event. So as I mentioned during the call, maybe your expectations are just to show up. Maybe your expectations, maybe you're an expert level networker, you've been doing it for quite a while. Maybe you want to meet, I don't know, 5 new referral partners. That may even be a little bit ambitious. So really it's all about, based on your level of experience and what you're trying to get out of it. So there's no right or wrong answer. You want to set realistic expectations, and not kind of set yourself up for disappointment. And it looks like we
Awesome.
have
And then we
next.
actually had a few more. Sorry, Rob.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So we had Jason earlier in the presentation, who gave a lot of great feedback throughout, but also said that you mentioned your strategy for helping to provide value. What are some other creative ways that you've seen folks do this, maybe other than what you already explained?
Creating value. So a lot of times you can offer something
Noah.
like something like a specific deal for maybe like a group, right? So maybe like an alignable specific discount or an alignable specific free consultation or something along those lines. So maybe in each group that you're a part of, or different networking activities that you do, you can offer something that's exclusive to that group.
Love that. And then you have one last one that was in the chat. And that was from Candy. She said, when you create the elevator pitch, do you include the service and product in the initial contact?
Yeah, so you'd want to basically very concisely and very quickly get to what it is that you can do to provide value for someone else. So do we know what was her name again? Candy?
Candy?
Candy, what is it that you do, so I can answer you a little more specifically?
I do embroidery and screen printing.
Embroidery and screen, yeah, so absolutely. So you can, when you're doing your elevator pitch, you can say, hi, I'm Candy. I think that line of business is pretty self-explanatory. So you can say, we do embroidery and screen printing, and then maybe think about who it is that you help the most. So do you work with a lot of tradespeople? I imagine in embroidery, you probably do. You probably have a lot of tradespeople where they're, maybe like HVAC and plumbers and roofers and things like that. Or maybe you work with schools or something like that. So who is it that you help the most? And you can kind of incorporate that into your elevator pitch.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Candy.
Awesome. And then now for our live questions, it looks like Roshni, you had your hand raised first in queue. Hopefully I said your name correctly.
You get an A+++. Thank you.
Hey.
Hi, Roshni.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for this. You are amazing. It's efficient, it's informative, and I'm just loving this. I'm just eating this up. This is a really fantastic way to connect with other people and other business owners. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So a very simple question. What do you think about QR codes, business cards, exchanging phone numbers? Is there a way that you prefer, or that is a preferred way with all the virtual stuff going on?
I may be a little bit biased because I actually sell NFC smart business cards. It's actually something that I produce. So my answer is going to be, you need one of these, right? But it could be anything. It could be, paper card. It could be any sort of means of transferring your contact details. But I do truly believe this is the future, NFC smart business cards, where you just tap this to the back of your phone and it transfers your contact details. Yeah, thank you, Roshni. Appreciate that.
I will say, as someone who's unbiased, who's just gone to some networking events and doesn't sell anything, I've seen those a lot at some of the live ones, and it's been super helpful because I always forget to bring a business card, or I don't have the right amount with me. So definitely, as an unbiased, I love that too.
Thank you, Brittany. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. And then you have Alan next.
Hey, Alan. I think you're on mute.
That's going to be in the Guinness Book of Records, most asked question. I'm complimenting on a quality presentation. Thank you. It's very informative. My question was, could you give us some maybe template answers for creating a hook, something that maybe 4 or 5 different ways to go if you hit a wall, where I ask them, can I help you with A? And they say, we don't carry A anymore. So where do you...
Can you share what it is that your business is or what you do?
Well, the short answer is I do wholesale tropical fish and plants, and I also have another company that's clothing, and that's a large website to support a dolphin organization.
So for something like wholesale fish and plants, I would probably put together maybe like a care guide, how you can care for these fish and plants, and offer that as free information. And maybe you could build up an email list in that way, for your specific example. So, and then just talking in general, you had asked about a template. I think it would really be, think of it in terms of what can you do to add value to someone that's either free or cheap, and just think in terms of that and try to come up with a solution for that. But in terms of your specific instance, the first thing that comes to mind is a care guide. I feel like that would be something where if someone's interested in purchasing those products, they're going to want to know, or how do they care for these things.
Well, a lot of times the retailer does that. Thank you. That's a great suggestion. But what I'm looking for is how to answer supply chain questions, flight information, how to guarantee that they're going to get stuff that a lot of people aren't coming through. There's container ships all up and down the coast right now and have been for a while. I think of it more like, and Henry Ford was asked how he had the fastest supply chain in the world. And he said that what he does is he puts the laziest person in the roadblocks, and in 3 days they figure out the fastest way to do that job, and then he moves them. So that's the kind of hook I was looking for, something like that. But anyway, thank you. That was helpful.
Yeah. Thanks, Owen. I appreciate that.
And then I think we have time for one more question. Roxanne has had her hand up.
Yeah. Hi, Roxanne.
Hey, so mine's pretty simple and it might seem kind of silly, but I'm going to guess we're all here for networking. So I have my first two like really big networking events coming up Thursday and Monday, where it's like hundreds of people. And I'm not one to just go and just talk to people. So I'm not sure like how to keep a conversation going with people I don't know. So I was kind of hoping for maybe just some like short ways to walk up to those people with the open stances, who are open to networking and just kind of start a conversation.
Yeah, that's an amazing question. Thank you for that. And I think it's probably a question a lot of people have. So thank you for asking that. So the event, you said it's quite a large event. What is the format? Is it like an after hour social?
So one is a happy hour social, and then one is, I don't know if you've heard, it was called Women in Strength. So that one's more of a conference with networking as well.
Yeah, so each one's going to require a little bit of a different strategy. So for the after hours networking one, just show up and people are probably going to talk to you. Just go in, grab a light bite or a drink or what have you, and just kind of relax and have fun with it. The socials I find to be pretty low key and relaxed, and people will kind of gravitate towards you naturally. And then it's just like talking to anyone else, just having a simple, straightforward conversation. I wouldn't put too much pressure on yourself and just kind of go with the flow.
Awesome. And Rob, I know as we're closing out, I will let you close out, but if you could drop your information, you have a lot of people asking about the digital business cards.
Oh, great. Yeah, for sure. Let me, I'll share that slide with you. So if you guys want to go ahead and grab your camera, you can open your camera app on your phone and you can scan this QR code, which will bring you directly to my profile page, which is actually my smart card profile page. I'll drop it in the chat for you guys here as well. I appreciate everybody's interest in that. That's exciting. All right, and I also posted that in the chat, so everybody has that. And I do have an exclusive, exclusive. That should be a trademark. I have an exclusive Alignable discount. Align 30 is the coupon code, and you can get a smart card for $69. There's no ongoing fees. It's just a one-time payment.
Amazing. I will go ahead and close out that recording. Also, Patrick, I know you had a question we didn't get to. Definitely drop your information in the chat. Rob will be saving the chat, and then he would love to follow up with you later.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys. Rob, I'll let you close it out.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone.